Greetings, friends. Settle in for a spell and give listen to 3 scary stories for your evening. So, a couple of years back, my cat Jimmy, don't ask, he was a rescue, got outside. He was always an indoor cat, never went outside ever, but always acted like he would slip by us if the door was left open too long. One Friday night, we happened to notice that he was gone, couldn't find him. I know cats are good at not being found if they don't want to be, but we literally looked everywhere for him. My mom finally admitted that the front door had been left open for a few seconds after getting some groceries in, so he may have finally made a run for it. I was pretty mad at first, went out to walk around the house and still couldn't find him. Where we live isn't a very busy place, and there aren't woods close by, but it's still a pretty big neighborhood, so he could literally be anywhere. My folks insisted he was just prowling around, doing cat stuff, and he'd come back before long, and I figured they were probably right. It was getting late, so I put a little food and water out by the door in case he came back and went to bed. Next morning, I woke up pretty early on my own and noticed a lump at the end of my bed. It was Jimmy. I guess he had come back and my parents let him in. I loved on him a little bit. He lifted his head and happily received head scratches, but didn't seem interested in getting up. Figuring he was tired from his midnight romp, I got up to go get some breakfast. On my way down the hallway, I could see through my parents' bedroom door that both were still asleep. Did Jimmy come back late last night after I went to bed? No matter. I got downstairs and started to turn the corner to the kitchen when I heard scratching and pitiful meowing through the front door. What the F? Another cat? Did Jimmy make a friend? But I recognized that meow. I slowly walked to the door and cracked it open to see Jimmy staring at me. I opened the door and he came running inside, nuzzling my legs for a moment and meowing like crazy, before finally tumbling over on the floor and began licking himself. I knelt down and examined. It sure was Jimmy, and not an imposter. But how? Who was that cat upstairs? I never left my window open. There should have been no way for him to jump down outside. I immediately started marching upstairs to lay eyes on the other cat and see what was up. My curiosity was driving me, but as I crested the top of the stairs, I suddenly felt something. Can't explain it. Everything seemed to get really quiet. Outside noise basically ceased. My sleepiness gave way to adrenaline, and I steadily but cautiously made my way to my room. The closer I got, I felt a lump growing in the base of my throat. I approached my door, which was pulled to but slightly open. There was almost a pressure coming from the door now. What was going on? I flung the door open, expecting to see other Jimmy, but there was nothing. Instead, a cold chill ran down my spine and made me physically shudder. Suddenly, though, the pressure went away. Everything seemed fine in the house again. I regained my senses and ran back to the stairs, where I could see Jimmy at the foot. His eyes were wide, his tail puffed up, ears turned back. He was staring intently at our front door. I ran down and looked around. Nothing seemed out of place. After a couple of minutes, Jimmy calmed down and everything seemed normal again. I checked my room later, under the bed, behind furniture. No signs of the imposter Jimmy. And nothing like that has ever happened again. TLDR apparently was a crash pad for a ghost cat. When I was in college, some buddies and I liked to go exploring, sometimes places that were, how one would say, not exactly safe. Typically it would be some old buildings around campus, or a small network of caves that was down the road from our town. Nothing too bad, never got an eerie vibe from any of the places, and these were places that didn't have a lot of eyes on them, so we weren't really risking getting in trouble. One day though, got a call from my friend. Dude, I found a place. We got to go. Okay, sure, I'm down. He doesn't tell me a lot about it, wants me to be surprised. So that weekend, early in the morning, while it's still mostly dark but enough light to see, we pull our car off onto a little gravel road with some tree cover and get out. No obvious building in sight. Grinning ear to ear, he sets off down this thin dirt path between some concrete barricades that are no telling how old. A little backstory, I guess. This area had been used as barracks and equipment storage for soldiers during World War II. It had never really been a full military base, but rather a training, boarding, and maintenance facility. It dried up soon after, and there are lots of buildings that would be awesome to explore, But we never got that brave because there are a couple of new federal buildings that have sprung up around, and we were always paranoid they've been monitoring those old buildings. That said, there were a few much smaller buildings and houses that looked incredibly old that were right off the main road, but they were grown up with trees and such and virtually inaccessible. So my friend and I follow this dirt path around some brush and come into a clearing where there is a house like the others I mentioned, but not grown up. It's also a little bigger and looks to have some upstairs loft or something. However, the door and most of the windows are boarded up, and there's a chain link fence going around it, razor wire up top, and gate locked with an oversized chain. I'm impressed at the find, but then I get a sinking feeling in my chest. This house gives off an ominous vibe like I can't explain. "This is it," my friend beams. "Spooky, huh?" I look at him thinking, dude must be crazy. I ask him why here, and we talk about it for a little bit. He admitted he was kind of scared of it too, but that's why he wanted to be here. I tell him I got a bad feeling. I have the cliche feeling like I'm being watched, and besides, how do we get in with that fence? He motioned around the side of the house, and sure enough, near a back corner, the linkage was torn off from the post just enough at the top to slip through with the help of a convenient cinder block in the ground. That screamed to me that we were not the first people to go in here. Every fiber of my body hesitated, but my buddy just jumped right on through and coaxed me to follow. Once we were in, the air just felt different. Maybe the rush of what we were doing, I don't know. But we were in, past the point of no return. He walks around an odd corner of the house itself, then motions for me to come closer. We're in stealth mode now, in case there really is someone lurking, so it's all hand signals and lip reading. I follow him to see a busted out window that is waist high, perfect to climb through. We do so, and our eyes start to adjust to the darkness inside. The sun has come up over the horizon, so there is some light peeking through what few windows are not boarded up. We note that there is a large sturdy piece of wood next to the window. Maybe it used to block the window but was moved by someone else, who hopefully is not still here. We start looking around, trying not to use our flashlights yet. This little nook opens up into a decently sized living room with a concrete floor. Notice there's graffiti all over said floor, random drawings, occasional symbol that looks like a tattoo idea, then a few gruesome images of two figures, one obviously harming the other in ways that are pretty graphic and I won't describe. Looking around the walls, we see some similar artwork, and as our eyes travel, we see in the corner a tight switchback staircase, which probably led to the upper loft. There were some graffitied symbols that looked very deliberate on the floor and walls at the base of those stairs. Couldn't describe what they were if I had to, but pretty sure there were at least a few pentagrams somehow worked into it, that kind of thing. In the opposite corner, there was a landing that looked like it led to a hallway, which we decided to explore first. Once we got over there, we broke out our flashlights and carefully strolled along. Everything smelt old. Mildew, dust, grime, mold, you name it. We came to a filthy kitchen on our left, and a nauseating bathroom on our right. Next to the bathroom was another door that was closed. We looked at it for a moment, looked at each other, shook our heads, then continued on. The end of this hallway turned right into another large room that looks like a den or may have been a study. However, it was absolutely trashed. Soda and beer cans, food wrappers, some other items used for consumption seemed to be among the piles as well. We noted more graffiti in here, but this wasn't as artistic as the first room. There were a lot of random words. Why seemed to show up a lot. I also remember seeing forget, regret, end, death, reaper. Edgy teens, maybe, came in here to get high and then wrote their thoughts on the wall. But this is where things got more than a little creepy. We started hearing some noise coming from the other side of the house. We looked at each other, silently communicating that we both heard it and it wasn't our imagination. We couldn't go any further this way, so we had to backtrack to where the noise had come from. With much trepidation, we proceeded. When we got to the hallway, we noticed that the previously closed door was now open. Our hearts sank, because we were sure this door was completely closed before. Our danger senses are going crazy now. We know better than to go inside, but it's cracked enough where we can see into what looks like a bedroom. Oddly enough, it looks pristine, almost like an untouched shrine in this otherwise condemned house. The bed is made, although it is somewhat messy, like someone had slept on top of the covers and not smoothed it back out. We also noted what appeared to be flowers, probably fake, laying in the middle of the bed, almost like a bouquet. A shot of fear ran through me right away, and I nudged my friend and motioned that we needed to go, now. He nodded in affirmation, and we began to walk with as much speed as we could without making noise toward our exit. As we came around the corner back into the room with the concrete floor, we were struck with what, in the moment, was a fearsome sight. That piece of wood that had been propped next to the window was now leaned in a position where it was facing us, one word written in what looked like fresh red paint. Leave. Without a second thought, we bolted across the room and through the window, toward the hole in the fence, and cleared it without stopping. We sprinted all the way back to our car, jumped in, and peeled onto the main road. After a few seconds, once we felt like we were far enough away, we started screaming hysterically and then nervously laughing, trying to figure out what the hell we just experienced. We have some theories, but we never went back to double check. We were also a lot more careful about where we went. My buddy didn't make any suggestions for quite a while. This happened when I was 11, I think. One place we lived at for a couple of years was right down a gravel road from a small cemetery nestled in some woods. This didn't really bother me. Out of sight, out of mind. After school and sometimes at night, I would sort of wander the yard, just walking around and thinking up stories. Somehow in doing this, I got it in my head that there was something in the tree line looking at me. I almost felt like I could make out eyes deep in the woods. Nothing malicious ever happened, so I figured it was just my imagination. Well, there were a couple of other things that happened at that house that made me feel weird. For one, there was a guest bedroom that virtually never saw overnight guests, but the door was usually open wide. During the day, it seemed like just a regular room. At night, though, especially when all the other lights in the house were off, that room seemed especially dark. Like, you know how even at night, a little glow from the moon or street lights makes its way through your windows? Nope, this room was always pitch black. And on occasion, when I would walk by it late at night to go to the bathroom or get a drink, I felt some presence in there. Again, not necessarily bad, but not altogether welcoming either. But again, maybe just my imagination. The one I can't explain, we had a cat that loved to drink water from the sink. Someone would have to start a little drip for him and remember to turn it off when he was done. One night, I was cozying down in bed when I realized the hallway bathroom faucet was running. Sure enough, cat was getting his fill. My dad had already been in bed, and my mom was in the office still. I went in there and asked if she had turned on the water for the cat. She said she didn't. Don't know why she'd lie about that. Somebody turned that water on, and I don't think it was Whiskers.